One of the most important things you can do to protect your family is to make sure you have adequate insurance coverage, particularly when it comes to auto insurance. We're here today with attorney David Farnbaugh, a longtime personal injury lawyer from Fort Wayne, who will talk with us today about some of the most important insurance coverage you should include on your auto coverage. Dave, thanks for being with us today.
It's great to be with you today.
Dave, most of our viewers probably carry uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage on their auto policy, but I'll bet some of our viewers don't really fully understand the distinction between uninsured and underinsured coverage. Could you explain?
Well, uninsured motorist coverage is coverage that motorists purchase to protect themselves against another driver that causes an accident and that other driver doesn't have any auto liability insurance whatsoever. That's known as uninsured motorist coverage. Underinsured motorist coverage is protection that you purchase to protect you against a driver who has auto liability insurance coverage, but they don't have enough coverage to fully cover all the damages that are caused in the accident. For example, in Indiana, a motorist is required to carry at least $25,000 per person liability coverage. Well, frequently we see accidents in our offices where the damages are, the medical bills alone are $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. So if the other driver is only carrying $25,000 worth of liability insurance coverage, that driver is not carrying enough insurance to fully cover all of your damages from that accident. So you have to look to your own policy to provide additional coverage over and above what the other driver was carrying.
Dave, in Indiana, is it mandatory that you have uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage as part of your own auto insurance coverage?
No, it isn't mandatory. In fact, it's one of the things that we always recommend to our clients, that whenever they renew their auto insurance coverage, we ask them to take a look at both their uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage to try to purchase as much under and uninsured motorist coverage as they can afford, because there are many situations where accidents are caused by drivers who are carrying very low limits, like $25,000 or $50,000 worth of auto insurance coverage.
What are the typical policy limits for coverage sold to consumers in the state of Indiana?
The most typical auto policy that we see sold in Indiana is a policy that provides $100,000 coverage for injuries to any one person, or $300,000 coverage for all the occupants in the vehicle, or what we call per accident coverage. And so with, for example, $100,000 policy limits for the at-fault driver, commonly we see situations where if there's a serious accident, even the medical bills alone will exceed the $100,000 coverage that's available under the at-fault party's auto insurance coverage. That's why it's important to check your own policy and try to purchase more underinsured motorist coverage so that if you're involved in a serious accident, you can recover damages under your own policy.
So why would a person want to add uninsured or underinsured coverage to their policy?
Well, I think the big reason that you'd want to have coverage, as I mentioned before, is because there are so many drivers in the state of Indiana that are carrying low limit policies. You see advertisements all the time on television for insurance companies that are selling so-called minimum coverage. There's a very significant percentage of drivers out there that are driving around with only $25,000 worth of insurance coverage. And it doesn't take much of an accident and much of a hospital stay to go through $25,000 or $50,000 of auto insurance coverage just to cover your medical expenses alone. So I think it's imperative every time you renew your policy to talk to your agent about how much uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage you can afford.
How much uninsured or underinsured coverage should the average family carry?
Well, I think based on our experience and based on current medical expenses, you know, a 4 or 5 day hospital stay right now, that'll run somewhere between, let's say, $50,000 and $100,000. I would say that, once again, if your budget will afford it, we would recommend that a family carry a minimum of $250,000 of underinsured motorist coverage, and if you can afford it, purchase an umbrella policy that provides an additional $1 million worth of underinsured motorist coverage. You'll find, if you talk to your insurance agent, that an umbrella policy that gives you an additional $1 million of underinsured motorist coverage doesn't cost more than a few $100s per year.
Give our viewers some idea of just how often uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage comes into play in the aftermath of a motor vehicle accident.
I would say in the last 10 years, approximately half of the motor vehicle accident cases that we've handled in our office, we will ultimately recover damages under the client's own auto insurance policy. So once again, with the increased cost of medical care and the number of drivers that are driving on Indiana roadways with minimum limits policies, it's very critical to purchase uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage for your own protection.
If one of our viewers is involved in an accident and has questions about uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, does your firm offer a free consultation?
Our law firm, like most law firms that handle accident cases, offers free consultation. So if you have questions about whether uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage applies to your situation, feel free to call our office and we'll answer your questions for free.
That's good advice. Thanks for shedding some light on this confusing subject and spending time with us today.
Thanks for having me.